Welcome everyone to the DeVory Darkins Show, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the government shutdown. Listen, we spoke about it yesterday. Food stamps are obviously becoming a problem for 42 million Americans, but really what has become a problem this morning is air traffic controllers. The president for the association has come out and delivered an ultimatum to Congress. You still have people crying about the food stamps. We'll talk about that as well. And if we have time, we'll get to Greg Bavino. He is in court today, having to testify in front of a judge for deploying tear gas because we know ICE agents, in my opinion, they've been under attack in Chicago when they go out to do their job. So those are the big stories that we're going to get to in this video. But before we go any further, if you guys are new here, we deliver common sense commentary for these uncommon times. Feel free, if you do find value in what we do here, share and subscribe to our channels. We're live on X, we're live on YouTube, and obviously we're live on Rumble, which is what really kicked this entire show off. And so I want to say a big shout out to Rumble. And if you do have questions you want me to get to during the show, I'm more than willing to answer them. Just put it in the chat and we'll get to them here shortly. Okay, with that said, let's start off with a new update regarding the SNAP stuff. We'll get to the air traffic controllers, but this is just new. Like literally 30 minutes ago, Democrats are now suing the Trump administration because of the SNAP benefits. Take a listen to this.
And we just learned minutes ago that more than 24 states have now sued the Trump administration in a last-ditch effort to maintain SNAP funding. Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman from Minnesota, Angie Craig, ranking member of the Agriculture Committee, which oversees SNAP. I'm always happy to have you as a guest, but particularly now, given this lawsuit that was just filed, what can you tell us about it?
Well, I'm very proud of my Attorney General, Keith Ellison, in Minnesota. He's among 22 other states who filed an action against the Trump administration today. Candidly, I said last week, we need to sue their asses. This is illegal what they're doing. We have appropriated money. It's over $5 billion into a contingency fund that until last week on the USDA website itself, it said that this money could be used during a government shutdown. And we know they also have the authority to also move other money around and pay November SNAP benefits. The bottom line, Chris, the administration is choosing not to pay 440,000 Minnesotans their SNAP benefits in November. They're choosing not to pay 16 million children who have access to SNAP benefits. They are choosing to do this. It's illegal, it's immoral, and it's probably one of the most cruel things we've seen out of this administration so far.
That is what you call a partisan take. So what she leaves out is a clear fundamental principle in the way that our government is constructed. Now, I'm not insulting your guys' intelligence. I'm sure you guys know this, but let's just say it out loud, right? The power of the purse, the person who triggers the money is who? Is it the president or Congress, right? It's Congress, of course. And what Democrats are trying to do with this whole government shutdown game is make people who are not going to do their research believe that the only way the government is going to get open is if the Republicans do it. Well, we already know the Senate, it takes 60 votes. Unless they vote for the filibuster, which Republicans are not going to do that because in a sense that is a Trojan horse that would give Democrats exactly what they want to pass radical policies. And that's just a non-starter. So at any rate, I just find it funny how partisan that take was. And again, 42 million Americans on SNAP benefits is already a problem. We talked about it yesterday. OK, now let's go to what Tish James had to say, because we know she has problems already. But she found some time to put this up just moments ago. On Saturday, millions of Americans, including children, could go hungry because the federal government wants to illegally suspend SNAP benefits during the shutdown. Key word. The government wants to illegally suspend SNAP benefits during the shutdown. This is how the propaganda starts. They replace words. They put words in there that really has no business being in the sentence. It's not illegal what's happening, okay? It's already enough that the president took from tariff revenue to pay for the last SNAP benefits. They don't want to tell you that though, right? Okay. Anyways, she says we're suing. The USDA has funds to stop people from starving, but instead it's paying politics. It's wrong. Or instead it's playing politics. It's wrong. And what she really should be saying, the USDA has funds to stop people from starving, but Democrats are playing politics, and it's wrong because they're not going to reach into the bank account unless the government is open. You can't reach into the bank account unless the government is open. They just don't understand that. Okay, let's go to this clip. If you guys really are into the technical stuff of it, the numbers of it, here is really a big picture of this government shutdown and people that are going to be affected across the entire board. Okay, let's take a look
Millions
at
of
that.
Americans are now rationing their meals because their elected leaders are no closer to reopening the government than they were 28 days ago. Some have no money coming in, like the 13,000 air traffic controllers who are still on the job but not getting paid today. Active duty troops who won't get full paychecks on Friday. Funding for 2 crucial food assistance programs will run out as those skyrocketing health care costs hit. And then on Monday, preschoolers could get shut out of Head Start. 5 million low-income Americans will literally be left out in the cold because the amount and the account that helps them afford heat will be broke. And furloughed workers could soon miss their second full paycheck.
Okay, here's a good question for you guys. Put it in the chat, okay? And I really want to know if this makes sense to you guys. So if the government, when a shutdown occurs, starts to run out of money within 30 days of these different programs, I mean, that's already a problem in and of itself. So if the federal government hasn't even put money aside, how could, the average American do the same thing? I find that to be interesting, Again, we talked about it yesterday. Financial literacy is everything, okay? And I continue to say it. It's a wake-up call for most people out there. You shouldn't be in this position. And if you are, your goal moving forward now should be to get out of it, okay? And there will be people that will take this and say, hey, you know what? I'm done. I got to figure this out. I cannot have my family, depending on the government. So, but then you're going to have people who obviously blame everybody else but themselves. Now, let's go to this clip. Is going viral where you find more leftists crying about this government shutdown, and I definitely want to react to it. Take a look.
Where are the celebrities? Where are the mothers? Where is Kim Kardashian? Where is Cardi B? Where is Taylor Swift? Where is Beyonce? 40 million people are about to lose their food assistance, and they do not care because they are part of the system. Wake up. Nobody needs Skims when they're actually skin and bone. Nobody needs 12 albums with the same music. Wake up. They don't care. They want you to starve. Starve them. Do not buy their stuff. They want children to starve. Wake up.
Well, she makes a good point. Why would you be buying Taylor Swift albums or, buying Skims, right? I mean, America is obviously a country of consumers. Let's just be real about it. And it's a slippery slope financially. It's overconsumption and a lot of stuff we buy that we really don't need. And again, it goes back to financial literacy. It's interesting because I think society is so screwed in so many ways. When someone finally gets a little bit of money, their first question is, well, what should I invest this money in? You shouldn't invest in anything except yourself. Just because you got an extra $10,000 that doesn't mean, oh yeah, I'm going to go invest in real estate. No, you need to invest in your mindset. You need to invest in yourself first because that's your most valuable asset. And so even when someone gets a little bit of money, they still lack the financial literacy. And then you see that people who don't have money, they're spending money on nails. They're spending money on, all this stuff at the store that they really don't need, and clothes, etc. They're living above their means. See, say what you want about boomers. They understand that principle of financial literacy. They understood do not live above your means. But millennials, which I am one, we never got that lesson for some reason. And I would argue that we were screwed left and right with, student loans and credit cards and inflation, etc. But listen, you can only blame the system so much. You got to rise above it, right? All right, let's go to this one. And this is about speaking the truth. It's only 15 seconds, but I think it's good. Some of you guys have probably already seen this.
I'm just going to say it, and I don't care who get mad. Shouldn't no grown-ass, able-bodied people be freaking out about no food stamps. If you got 2 legs, 2 arms, you can get up and talk on the phone. You can get up and take your behind to work. I'm talking to able-bodied.
Exactly. So that's what Republicans have been obviously focused on, is removing able-bodied people, not only with food stamps, because I'm not too sure you guys are aware of this. There's a new work requirement regarding food stamps that you have to work 80 hours if you don't have kids, if you're not disabled, and you're just a single person out there with no issues. It's just you. You have no business being on SNAP unless you're working, It's 40 hours a week, okay? So anyways, let's go to this poll, because I think this gets to the heart of the question. How bad is this going to be for Democrats, and how bad is this going to be for Republicans? Because the more this goes on, there has to be a political, impact on this at some point, right? Well, according to CNN this morning, it's actually helping Republicans.
How has the shutdown seemed to have affected their political standing?
Yeah, you might think, given that the Republicans are in charge of both the House and the Senate, that a government shutdown might actually hurt the Republican brand. But in fact, it hasn't. If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at is, well, hey, why should we give, an electorally speaking, when our brand has actually improved a little bit?
Now, we say their position is getting better. With whom?
Yeah, okay, with whom? So I think it's 2 groups that it's so important to keep an eye on. All right, change in the Republican Congress's net approval rating versus pre-shutdown. It's rallying the base for sure. Look at this, the net approval rating up 12 points versus pre-shutdown. But it's not just with the base. It's also with the middle of the electorate. Look at this, among independents, it's up 8 points as well. So we've got a situation here where Republicans with the shutdown are actually rallying their base, but it's also something that's not hurting them with the folks in the middle. If anything, it's helping them with folks in the middle.
Yeah. So I tell you guys this all the time. Independents are the ones who decide elections, because at this point, it's pretty much even. 48% support Trump, 48% support Gavin Newsom, right? Because that's pretty much where they're going. And then you have the 2% in the middle, which are independents, okay? Now, some people argue that in the next 10 years, there will be more registered independents than there will be Democrats and Republicans. I've seen the trend myself. But at any rate, he is spot on about something. This has not negatively impacted Republicans, and that's a problem for Democrats come the midterms if this keeps up. Now, let's do a little research, and what I want to do is use Perplexity. And what I mean by that is their new browser called Comet, okay? If you are a person who spends a lot of time on your browser, right, on your phone, shopping, sending emails, even text messages, and doing research, like I do, then you're going to want to be able to see if you can combine some of these apps in one. That's what Comet does for you. It takes the research, it takes the email, it takes the shopping, and puts it all into one. Okay, so think of it as a AI browser. Okay, and right now the cool thing about Perplexity is they're doing this promotion where you'll get 1 month free of Rumble Premium if you download this browser, which the link is in the description below. Okay, so let's actually look at this and its capabilities. I asked a very simple question, which was whose authority is it to pay SNAP benefits, the president or Congress? Let me zoom in here because I can't see either, guys. All right. It says key details. Congress is responsible for passing the annual appropriations bills or continuing resolutions that allocate funding for federal programs, including SNAP. The USDA, which is a part of the executive branch, administers SNAP and distributes benefits, but it needs appropriated funds from Congress to do so. So bottom line is, during a government shutdown or a lapse in appropriations, SNAP payments, pay attention here, SNAP payments will halt if Congress does not authorize new funding, regardless of presidential wishes. This is why the president did what? He got a private citizen to donate $130 million to pay the troops. But Democrats will go onto the news and say, no, what they're doing is illegal. So let's just make sure we understand this. You're suing the president because he got somebody privately to fund troops pay, okay, $130 million. He actually got sued over that, by the way. Now you're suing over him for not, I guess, doing the same thing for SNAP. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So in summary, while the president can make recommendations and sign spending bills, only Congress has the constitutional authority to appropriate funds for SNAP benefits. So let's take this one step further. I think I've showed you guys this feature before, but for the new people on the show today, please send me the bottom line summary of the SNAP benefits answer to my email at truth@DeVoryDarkins.com. I like showing you guys how you can just send yourself some emails. You can also shop. I'm not a big shopper, by the way. My wife will tell you, I'm really not a guy who buys a lot of things, to be honest. Okay, I I have a hard time buying stuff even for myself. At any rate, yeah, so here it is. Here's an email. So you can just hit send, and I will get the email on my phone. This is Common, the browser that's been created by Perplexity AI. And if you guys want to download it, which I would encourage you to do so because you get 1 month free of Rumble Premium, which you need on Fridays when we go live on Rumble Premium to answer your questions directly and our upcoming call-in show, by the way. All right, so I think we got the information regarding SNAP benefits and whose responsibility it is. I think there's no question you guys now have seen the facts for yourself. You can make up your own mind if you believe it to be true, but there's no question that the GOP is not being negatively impacted by this government shutdown. Same thing with the president. His approval ratings are not, they have not been negatively affected by this government shutdown, but Democrats, their approval rating has. Now, here's a little bit more to this. Take a look.
So how are they positioned right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, the generic congressional ballot, which traditionally Democrats have done really well on, and if you look at this point back when Trump was president the first time around, Democrats are up 11 points. Look at where it is now. Democrats are ahead, but they're actually only up 3 points. This is, in fact, the worst position Democrats have been on in a generic ballot at this point in midterm when there was a Republican president in the last 20 years. And this is no different from pre-shutdown. So Republicans aren't losing on this metric either. They become more popular, and they're actually in a pretty good position for them historically when it comes to the generic congressional ballot.
This is a concerning number for Democrats, are you saying, Congress?
This is a concerning number for Democrats because it's considerably worse than they traditionally do in midterm elections when there's a Republican president.
Well, there you go. If that's what CNN is reporting, that makes it very interesting because we know most of the things they say, half of it is true or, minimized, of course. Let's go to you guys' chats and see what you guys have to say so far about all of this. Shout out to Rumble. I'm reading your guys' comments now. Have Democrats ever donated anything to help U.S. citizens? I've never heard of that happening. And what's interesting is that a lot of liberal or Democrat leaning organizations, meaning these are organizations, corporations who have donated to election campaigns more in favor of Democrats than Republicans. These same organizations are funding the White House ballroom. The irony, right? But you don't see Democrats protesting them for doing that, right? Okay. Yeah, Trump used all that found money, then keep out would have went to food benefits. I don't know what you mean by that, but we'll keep moving. Democrats equal communist. Yeah, in some aspects, that is not a bad comment. We all have to get out in our states and make use. The Democrats never get back into office. Yeah, I know. Let's see here. What happened to feeling ashamed with food stamps or EBT? It's like people are proud of it. Yeah, there's a great deal amount of people who are clearly not ashamed of being on food stamps. Listen, I'm not talking about the people who everything was good and then all of a sudden a hurricane hit their lives, right? And they're just trying to figure it out. They'll climb out of it. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people who are deliberately abusing the system. I had a video yesterday showing you guys how 48% of illegal aliens are receiving SNAP benefits. We're not even talking about WIC or welfare, just SNAP alone. That is a problem, okay? So you have 42 million American citizens, and then we don't even know the number of illegal aliens because no one could really give you the exact number, right? But 48% of them, they do know, are receiving SNAP benefits. And the interesting part about it all is illegal aliens, especially during the Biden administration, the amount of SNAP benefits they were receiving on a monthly basis was like 3 or 4 times higher than an American citizen. But they won't talk about that either. Okay, let's keep reading here. Yeah, if they had structured SNAP with a time limit, it may have worked. I know a guy that's been on it for years, and he is perfectly able-bodied. Yeah. What incentive does he have to get off of it? Nothing. There's no incentive for someone to get off of government programs because it's not your money at the end of the day. You didn't earn it, right? So when someone gives something to you, your urgency is different than if you had to get out there and work for it. That's why I always laugh at people who say, tax the rich. Okay, sure. Let's keep going. Yeah, with all the Democrats committing insider trading, have them pay for food stamps. Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, we need to bring back shame. My wife tells me this all the time, and prosperity will follow. There's got to be consequences to people's choices in life. And of course, these people, in my opinion, are experiencing consequences, just not in the way that we may want them to experience it. And what I mean by that is people are they're abusing the system. And the consequences, they're never going to fulfill their potential in life. You see, I live a great life today. There's no question about it. I'm very blessed beyond measure. Obviously, my life was not always that way. I shouldn't even be here based on the numbers, okay? But the fact of the matter is this. I don't take it for granted. I'm very grateful. That's how I live my life, with gratitude. And the interesting part about what we're seeing in this country is a lot of people do not live their lives with gratitude. A lot of people live their lives complaining about the system instead of just taking responsibility for what they've done or what they've failed to do. And that's just the reality to it. And so that's why, for me, these people we're seeing complaining on TikTok, and I think half of it is trolling. I think a lot of people are actually lying about what they're saying in front of a camera to get clicks. I don't think these are real people on Snap. After seeing at least 20 of them, in fact, I'll show you this account. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Let's go here. It's called EBT of TikTok, which is now an X account. And they post these videos every day now, as you guys can see. Half of these, I understand what they're doing. Follow this account, by the way, if you need a good laugh. But I think half of these people are trolling. That's how sick our society can be on TikTok, by the way. And some of these people are not. But at any rate, yeah, these people, you just cannot depend on the government. Okay, let's keep going here. Head over to YouTube. They have $200 hair weaves, $80 nails, makeup, and 3-inch eyelashes, cars, and Snap. I can't afford any of that, and I'm not getting any assistance. Exactly. Because we are paying that. Right? Let's see here. Republicans really need to get a voice in the media besides Fox to explain what a clean CR is to ignorant people that don't understand it. Well, I'll explain it to you guys if some of you guys are still confused about it. And I do have another question that is separate from the story I want to answer. It was an email that I did receive, and it was a good question regarding the airstrikes in international waters on narco terrorists. So let's just answer the clean CR. Okay, let's start with this. What clean CR is what? Clean continuing resolution. What is a continuing resolution? It's exactly what it sounds like. It is a continuing budget of what we've already agreed to. So for example, in your household, let's say you make $5,000 a month and you have everything budget properly. Well, now it's about to be November 1st. You and your wife have to sit down, or your wife or your husband have to sit down, and you guys need to come to an agreement. Is this the budget we're going to continue to maintain, or are we going to make an adjustment, right? And so the problem, though, with Congress is they have to have multiple CRs within a year because they, for the life of them, can't even come up with a budget for 12 months. The budget only lasts for 3 months, and then they got to come back, vote on it again, 3 months again, because they can never commit to something long term. So the continuing resolution is exactly that. We are going to agree to, we're going to agree at the current spending levels. Now, the current spending level, the current budget that we have in place right now is based on the one big beautiful bill, okay? Which was passed by the House and passed by the Senate, which means what? Democrats voted for it. Some of them did. Okay. Now, having said that, you know who voted for it? Chuck Schumer did. So now we're here today, and instead of what would normally happen in history, which is we have this budget, and then all of a sudden at the last minute, the GOP says, we want to throw this, this, and this into this budget now at the very last minute. And Democrats are like, okay, well, we also want to throw this, this, and this in the budget. So, for example, Democrats want to fund USAID again. That's how the government usually shuts down if you go back through history. This shutdown is a little different because Republicans did not put anything different into this new budget. It's the same budget from the one big beautiful bill that Democrats voted for, like Chuck Schumer. The difference is because Chuck Schumer voted for that budget back in March, he received a lot of backlash from the radical part of the Democrat Party. The radical part is the progressives, or are the progressives. They would rather blow up the government and spend everybody's tax dollars than do the right thing, of course. They operate with no restrictions, no limits whatsoever. If progressives got in control, it'd be socialism times 10, basically. So he got a lot of backlash for compromising, and it's the same backlash that Speaker Johnson received multiple times by voting with Democrats when Biden was in office. So that's nothing new. What's new is Chuck Schumer has folded to that base and is refusing to do the right thing now. And because he is refusing to do the right thing, so are the rest of the Senate Democrats, except for Senator John Fetterman, which he potentially will be primaried by his own party come midterms, right? Because they're tired of him continuing to contradict their messaging. Hopefully that all makes sense. I think it makes total sense to me. But that's when they say a clean CR, they're saying it's a budget that is based on current spending levels. There are no other priorities that are being placed in here, no partisan talking points, nothing. It's exactly what we've been doing since March. No changes. That's what a clean CR is. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, here's the solution. The solution is this. Number one, people in Congress should not be paid when the government shuts down. I don't want to hear this. Well, I'm not going to pay myself while the government. What, you think I'm stupid? The money is still going to hit your account, okay? So what? The money's going to go into your account and you're going to tell your aide, hey, don't swipe that debit card. These people are liars, okay? They're still going to get paid because that's the law. They wrote the law, people in Congress. So the solution number one is they need to make it where people in Congress cannot be paid if the government shuts down. Number two, if GDP drops in I can't give you guys the actual number, whether that is 1% or does not grow by 1%, people in Congress, and I don't know what the number should be, but the premise here is people in Congress should be held accountable. Either one, they should lose their election and not be able to serve again, or two, they should be put on timeout, whatever that might look like. But the problem with Congress is inherently they are already a walking conflict. a conflict of interest because they are the one making the laws. So who's policing them exactly? Nobody, right? So the only person who can truly police Congress is if you take a case to the Supreme Court and they find that whatever Congress has done is unconstitutional. But between now and that happening, it could be quite some time. So in theory, who's really policing Congress? Well, it's supposed to be the voters, but there's only one problem. It's not the voters that police Congress. It's the donors that do. The corporations, the lobbies, the lobbyists. They are the ones running Congress, if you think about it. That's why our country has been poisoned. Our food system has been poisoned. That's why pharmaceutical companies profit off us getting sick. That's why we've had endless wars. None of that is America first. That is Congress first. And so that's the interesting thing about it, when I have to talk about politics every day, is the more I have to talk about this, the more I'm like, yeah, I don't care if you're a Republican, Independent, or Democrat. If you're in Congress, I already don't trust you because you guys are not getting results for the American people. That's why someone like Donald J. Trump is the president, not once, but twice. That's why Zohran Mamdani is about to be the mayor of the New York City. Because you can't screw the American people over, like over and over and over again, and think we're not going to do something radical. Sooner or later, we will. Electing Donald Trump back in 2016 was a radical decision. Came out to be a smart decision if you think about it. Now, for New York City, that's going to be a radical choice that they will make, but I'm not too sure. Well, it's not even, I know it's not going to work out for that city. That city is going to be finished, okay, with those policies. All right. Yeah, they don't work that often either. Okay, let's get to air traffic controllers, because I think if we're really going to talk about this, we have to at least hear from what they have to say, because this is crazy. So the president of air traffic controllers, the association is what it's called, he comes out and he's just like, listen, enough of this nonsense.
Day in and day out, that's now the life of an air traffic controller. The people tasked with making the impossible possible are having it made impossible by not paying them again. So the message is simple. In the shutdown today, there is no excuse that these hardworking men and women are showing up to do this job and to not ever know when they're going to get paid again. So we need America's help. We need you to stand up, and we need you to say enough is enough in this shutdown and ensure that we can move this forward, because we do not want to be up here telling you the sad stories. We want to be up here telling you how we're moving this system forward, how we're bringing in more air traffic controllers than ever, how we're modernizing this system to, serve the American people. So, again, I cannot stress enough. If you want to take action, contact your congressional representative and tell them in the shutdown today.
Well, if you want to take action, why not march down on Capitol Hill, right? These No King protesters, these Antifa rioters. Why don't you guys go down to Capitol Hill and riot there? Isn't it interesting how people who dislike what ICE is doing, they haven't spent 1 minute protesting their own elected leaders for making the law? ICE is following what the law says that they can do. They're not breaking the law. You may not like it, but it's interesting how you protest the symptom, but not the root cause. Let me say that again. It's interesting that they protest the symptoms and not the root cause. Again, these people, they lack critical thinking skills. So air traffic controllers, here's a question for you guys in the chat. How many of you guys have already had your flight canceled or delayed? How many of you guys have been traveling over the weekend? I did see, I think there was at least 5 airports that had to be grounded. They had a delay because of shortages. Now, if you're an air traffic controller, my own personal opinion at this point, I wouldn't expect them to show up to work. Now, if you're in the military, I'd expect you to show up, because you don't join for the patriotic folks out there. You don't join for the money. You join for the honor, the duty, the selfless service, the integrity, all of those things, right? So you're willing to stick it out longer than everybody else in the government as far as a military personnel is concerned. But there's no question that flights are going to continue to get delayed or canceled. And so it begs the question, when will it be enough for the American people? What can the American people do? The only thing that American people can truly do is make a radical decision when voting happens. That's how you get our elected leaders' attention. Now, you would think after President Trump getting elected twice, that would get the attention of Democrats. It has not. In fact, it has had the opposite effect. They don't think they are the problem. They think President Trump is the problem. They think people like you and me are ignorant and we're low IQ and we don't know what, that's why we voted for him, etc. Some of us are Nazis, etc. All that stuff. So even though I say that, half the country is probably not going to think that way. But again, the other half of the country, if you want to get the elected leaders' attention, you got to vote differently. And so we'll see what happens during the midterms. Now let's go to this employee, air traffic controller, telling his story about how hard it is for him. Take a listen.
The pressure is real. Speaking on behalf of the air traffic controllers in the New York area, the most congested, complex airspace, arguably in the NAS, the pressure is real. We have people trying to keep these airplanes safe. We have trainees that are trying to learn a new job that is very fast-paced, very stressful, very complex, now having to worry about how they're going to pay bills. Just a story that happened to me yesterday. Somebody came to me and said, "Joe, I have a question for you." I said, "What's that?" "I need your advice. What am I to do? Do I put gas in my car? Do I put food on the table? My wife is out making money. We don't have money for daycare. What do I do?" I didn't have the answers. I said, I will find out some resolve for you, but as of right now, I don't know what to tell you. But these are the real problems that air traffic controllers are dealing with on a daily basis.
Okay, so two things. One, if you missed one paycheck and you are already unable to pay for daycare, that means you were already in trouble. We talked about it yesterday. That means you don't have savings. That means you have not saved any money by working as an air traffic controller. And correct me if I'm wrong, air traffic controllers make six figures. Now, well, DeVory, they live in in these bigger cities, New York or Chicago or Houston, then move. It's interesting. It's like the American people who struggle. Some of these people, they don't want to do what it takes to be successful. Okay? If you know you're going to make six figures as an air traffic controller, you don't have to live in New York. You can move. If there's a shortage of air traffic controllers, which means you have a skill that is in demand, you can go anywhere. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me. I find it hard to believe I'm wrong on that. So again, let's go through it again, just so we're all clear. Number one, your mindset's off because you haven't been saving money. Why have you not been doing that? What is it? They say like 80% of Americans only have maybe $500 in savings. The numbers may be off, but the principle is the same. Americans are not programmed to make smart financial decisions. Because when we make dumb financial decisions, these institutions make more money. Think about how much money the bank makes when we have an overdraft, when we don't pay our credit card bills, and we get hit with the interest rates, or we take out loans with high interest rates. They can't wait for that. That's where they make their money. They want you to be stupid. But I don't believe you're stupid. I believe every single person is smart. The difference is their level of awareness surrounding whatever they're struggling in. How aware are you of managing your money? You don't need to be a hedge fund manager to be good at it. Okay? You have to have a purpose behind this stuff. Right? And so for the men out there who have families that you are responsible for, I hope you are finding ways to save money, because if you're not, that's on you. So for a person making six figures or more and you miss one paycheck and you're already in trouble, sorry, man, I just don't feel bad for you. Okay? Now, second part of this is the government. You shouldn't be putting air traffic controllers in this position anyway, because now you're talking about life or death. You're talking about people's safety, right? So this is why DeVory I'm in favor of privatizing at least half of the industry. Let's do 50-50, 50 government, 50 private. So that if a government shutdown occurs or the people in Congress want to play games politically, it's not really going to impact our skies. And I would argue they should do that with all of the programs. I think the problem is the government has their hands in too many things. We need to restrict the government. The more control the government has, the more they're going to screw the American people. Unfortunately, progressives don't see that. They think the more the government helps and the more they have hands in things, the more it helps the American people. But it has the opposite effect. Okay? Now, before we go to the next clip I want to show you of Dick Durbin being a dick, if you ask me, regarding this government shutdown, let me play this ad from today's sponsor. All right, this is just crazy. Because you know what frustrates me the most? It's when these insurance companies continue to lowball everyday Americans when they have a serious accident. What am I talking about? Their pain, the time that they lost, the things that they're going through. These insurance companies don't care about that. They only care about their bottom line, which is why I want to make you guys aware of Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm because they know when you're seriously hurt, that injury could be worth millions, and they're not going to settle for these lowball offers. And if you're results driven like me, pay attention to these numbers. They got a verdict out of Philadelphia for $26 million. That is 40 times higher than the insurance company. Out of Florida, they got one for $12 million. And then out of New York, $6.8 million, which is 25 times higher. You guys following what I'm saying here? You see, if you've ever been injured, don't overthink this. Protect your rights today. It only takes you a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you could do it all from your phone. And guess what? It doesn't cost you a thing. There's no upfront fees, any of that, unless they're able to get you results, including a win for your case. So did you know that you could start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just a click by going to forthepeople.com/DeVory? That is forthepeople.com/DeVory, or click the link in the description below.
Hearing from this union, as you said, Everett Kelly, you called him a good leader, hearing them effectively side with Republicans and the president, does that have an impact on you?
Of course it does. I felt strongly for this union. Everett's a friend and is doing a good job, but we also feel strongly for these families and the possibility that other Republican actions are going to be closing hospitals and clinics and nursing homes across this country. This is a crisis situation. We should resolve it as quickly as possible.
It does not change the strategy that Democrats have employed so far when it comes to this shutdown, stare down.
No, as a matter of fact, I think we can resolve this matter as soon as the president's willing to sit down with Republican leaders and Democratic leaders.
Okay. Well, just so you guys understand the current situation, for the 13th time, Senate Democrats just refused to pay the troops and reopen the government, continuing to use American families as leverage. The clean CR put forward by Republicans was blocked again by Chuck Schumer. They need 60 votes, and it looks like the ending vote tally, I don't have the ending one, but at the date of this, it was 52 to 43. So 52, we do not want to reopen the government, okay? So there it is. Dick Durbin again confirming where Democrats stand, which is they're not going to move an inch unless ACA subsidies is solved first. But even when I heard and seen Republicans offer that, including paying the troops, they still didn't want to go for it. So I'm not too sure what their goal is right now. I think it's a suicide mission at this point, if you think about it. How does a party who says that they care about American families, that American families are going to lose health care and die? Okay, let's go with that. Well, who's going to die first? The people who aren't going to have any food, the 42 million Americans, or the people who are going to have their premiums go up at the end of the year? I mean, which one's going to happen right now? Okay, so it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but this is who we are dealing with. Okay, one more clip for you guys because I think this is really good. It deals with air traffic controllers and the amount of flight delays, and this is what happened over the weekend, so just imagine what's going to happen this weekend or towards the end of this week.
Today marks a big moment. For the first time, air traffic controllers will miss a full paycheck. The uncertainty is starting to take a toll. Just yesterday, more than 3,000 flights were delayed across the country. Some of that was weather related, but the DOT says as many as half those delays were related to the shutdown. Some controllers are calling out sick in protest or working second jobs to make ends meet. The largest union representing federal workers is calling for the shutdown to end so they can get paid. Here at SEA, you might see air traffic controllers handing out leaflets today. Their union says it's happening at nearly 20 airports nationwide to let travelers know how the shutdown is impacting safety and operations.
Okay. So you heard that some people are getting a second job. They're doing DoorDash, Uber, what's the other one? Grubhub, right? And that's good on them. That's smart, of course. And so that actually takes me to something I want to make sure I'm clear on. If you're in a job that is 9 to 5 and it's salary based or hourly, whatever, and you're part of the federal government, you should have a plan to either get out of it or a plan to already be supplementing your income. Because according to inflation, working for the government is not as lucrative as it used to be 5 years ago, back in 2019. Okay? Now, I remember when I was in the Army, I was making $75,000 a year as a sergeant first class. I thought that was good money for someone my age. I mean, 27 years old. That's great, right? And you can make that same money if you were a government employee, GS-13 or something like that, or a federal contractor. Anyways, point is, I thought that was good money. Today, that's not good money. I mean, especially if you have a family, you're going to have some hard times unless you move. Okay, and so again, there are so many pieces to this puzzle, but I'm a results-driven guy. At the end of the day, you've got to look beyond where you're working and start getting smart with your money. There is no doubt that things are going to continue to change, especially for Gen Z. I mean, will Gen Z actually be able to collect Social Security? I don't think so. And here's the other thing. Why is it that people who are worth billions of dollars are able to still collect Social Security? That in and of itself tells you we have a problem with Social Security, right? So there's plenty of things that they can do about that. But that's a whole nother thing about people retiring. Point being is, we are the richest country on this planet. But in my opinion, we are also mentally the brokest people on this planet. And I think that happens because of our education system and the government. I said it earlier. They want us to be ignorant, because people who are intelligent and who is aware are people that cannot be controlled. I mean, think about the FDA. Think about the pharmaceutical. Think about the military-industrial complex. Think about these political leaders. Think about Hollywood and entertainment and media. They don't care about you or me. They care about their money. That's what drives America. America is a business. We can't change that right now. So what should we do? We should learn the game. We should learn the system. Take what we can to help ourselves, our families, and our future. Let's not sit here and act like we're victims, okay? It's just the price of being an American citizen. We live in the richest country, so might as well learn, how do I get rich? Or how do I improve my financial situation? I think that's a better use of our time than scrolling on Netflix. You get no return on investment watching Netflix, Prime videos, scrolling social media, zero return. But if you pick up a book, you start surrounding yourself with successful people, you start consuming successful things, and start learning, yeah, you're going to get a return on investment. I didn't get here in my life because I was doom scrolling. I got here because I'm doing exactly what I told you guys. I was terrible with money. Why? Because my mother was always like, money don't grow on trees. Every time she talked about money, it was something negative. So I didn't grow up with a positive mindset regarding money. So what did I have to do? I had to unlearn that mindset and develop a new one. Hey, there's an abundance. There's no shortage of money. There's plenty of opportunities out there. Doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are, you can improve your financial situation. It's never too late. So at any rate, I just think this government shutdown is a lot of political theater. I think Democrats are making a fatal mistake with people who they say they care about. And I think this is not going to end well, especially if they don't figure it out this week. We already know 42 million Americans are on SNAP. That's already a problem. Okay, that's a separate thing. But what's going to happen when November 1st rolls around and the government isn't open? You think a small selection of these people are going to sit by patiently? They're going to start looting, they're going to start robbing, and they're going to start getting violent. Why is it that during a recession, crime goes up? We saw it during COVID. We hit record high crime numbers. The same thing will happen here. If they allow this to go on for another month, people will start robbing because that's what they think their only solution is to do, which is to, I guess, violate the rights of others instead of, putting themselves in a better situation. Okay, let's see what you guys have to say about this. Why can't revenue from tariffs or the trillions of dollars from foreign investments be used to fund these programs? Well, it's a good question. I think it's a yes and a no. Could they fund these programs with tariff revenue? Well, the president already did by using $300 million of tariff revenue for WIC. But how much more can he continue to do that? Right? So where is the line where it's like you want the president and tariff revenue to keep bailing Congress out? Then that means Congress won't truly be held accountable. Now, if you're a person negatively impacted, you care less about all that because you're just trying to figure out how am I going to pay my bills? Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Once SNAP is gone, the independent black women who don't need no men will snap their fingers in a Z formation. You're a funny dude. You're funny. Let's see here. See, here's a good one. I'm a veteran. I can't get SNAP. My finances had to be, basically he's saying his finances had to be so low that he potentially could be on the streets. And that's why I showed you guys the numbers. I mean, you got to really be barely working to receive it. Okay, let's keep going. Technically, this bill doesn't give illegal aliens free health care. However, in California, they do not use any valid USID to become a driver to receive benefits. Okay, so here's a little education for you because we did, I would say, at least 7 videos on this. How do illegal aliens receive health care benefits? How many of you guys actually know the way that it works? So bottom line up front, illegal aliens do not receive health care benefits directly from the federal government. They receive it indirectly, meaning there's a loophole in the system that Democrats have been taking advantage of, which is why the One Big Beautiful Bill put an end to that. Let's go back. In 2021, 2022, Democrats decided to say, hey, listen, illegal aliens who cross the border illegally, not only did you already receive temporary protective status, but we will offer you health care benefits. That did happen, okay? One Big Beautiful Bill came around and said, no, that's over with, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is when a state pays out health care benefits, they get a reimbursement from the federal government. Well, let's just do simple math. Let's say I have $10. And the federal government will match me 50-50, right? Okay. So let's say I tell the federal government, hey, I use 9 of these $10 in my healthcare for my state. And the way that I reported the language and the way that I reported the expenses does not show you that it went to illegal aliens. What does the federal government do? They send the $4.50. That's what California has been doing, is they've changed laws, changed language, changed reporting So when you look at it, you're like, oh, illegal aliens aren't receiving health care. But when you actually physically go and see, they are receiving it. In fact, California is abusing the system. They're not getting 50-50. It's like 90-10. 90% is coming from the federal government. That's what's happening. And so then it gets supplemented with their own tax revenue from their state level. And that's how healthcare in California is being spent on illegal aliens. You know what's fascinating about all this? Is that even though the federal government has cocked up 90% to reimburse California, they still went bankrupt with Medi-Cal because of illegal aliens. So it's a problem. That's why I said I don't think the federal government, in my opinion, should be subsidizing at the level they are for healthcare. I think it needs to be a split between government and private corporations. Want to give tax cuts to private corporations? Let's give tax cuts in a way that absolutely positively impacts our society. I think that makes more sense. I don't know all the I'm not an expert on policy like that, but it sounds better than what we have right now. Okay. Let's keep going. I'm on Rumble right now. Shout out to Rumble. Let me catch up with what you guys have to say here in the chat. Yeah, I agree. In California, you don't have to prove citizenship to get benefits. But even if you did, it doesn't matter because Gavin Newsom changed the way that they report the reimbursement. So the federal government does not have the ability to be like, oh, well, we refuse to give you that money. Because the way that the reporting happens from the local healthcare communities up to the state level to the federal government, they have found ways to mask the fact that illegal aliens are receiving these benefits. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go to YouTube. Yeah. I think the only way Democrats will fold on this is that there got to be some riots in the streets, protesters at their front door. See, you're never going to get a Democrat's attention until they feel the pain. See, the difference here for Democrats for quite some time now is that their base is the one protesting against President Trump. But once they get protested against, once they are negatively impacted by illegal immigration, like maybe a family member is murdered, then they start to pay attention. And it shouldn't have to get to that level. But, I mean, what else do you expect, right? What else do you expect? Okay. Why did you quit calling him New Scum? Gavin New Scum, Gavin Old Scum. We can call him whatever. I don't care. Let's see here. My wife has been teaching financial literacy at junior high level for many years. Some schools still know what's important to teach. Well, that is really good to hear. Really good to hear. Yeah. Yeah, Chris Murphy doesn't care. We know that. That's why I keep telling you guys, these people will let the pain continue to happen. And I think it won't change for them unless they start experiencing these protesters. Because they already have a record low approval rating. You think that would be enough, but clearly it's not. Clearly, it is not. Okay, so let's go here. So what do you guys think? How do you guys think this is going to end? Do you think this is going to end this week? Do you think it will end next week? How long do you guys think this is going to go for? I'm really curious to know because I think at the end of the day, Democrats are not going to budge unless they start to feel the pain. And I don't think they've felt the pain yet. I really don't. And I don't think they will. I think they are this far gone, unfortunately. And they are going to weaponize that pain because they think it's going to negatively impact the president. And I'm of the opinion that that is not going to happen. Right? Let me read a couple more comments and then we'll get out of here. There we go. Okay, let's see here. Until after elections Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, if you're on Rumble, heads up, this live stream is about to get rated to the quartering. So you guys want to join him, he's starting now. And if you want to still stick around, I'm probably going to be live for the next few minutes. Just it's going to kick you out and then you'll have to come back in. Okay, let's go over to YouTube. DeVory, I don't think it will end soon or until they are forced to. Yeah, I think so as well. TSA officers need to get paid too, and those affected. Yeah. So it's two things are true at the same time. The government has put some American citizens in a tough spot financially. And these are people who play important positions that keeps me and you safe, whether that is flying in the sky, whether that is security. You know, at the end of the day, some of these people are important to our society. That's true. And it's also true that not all of them, of course, but some of them, they have not made smart financial choices. So when you put those two things together, yeah, we have a problem. Okay. And the only way out of this is open the government. But I'm a type of guy that I don't like waiting around for other people. I like taking matters into my own hands and continuing to do something, move forward, advance. Let's see here. Air traffic controllers, their average salary is $137,000. Yeah. I know. This is a good one. Thanks for your service. I'm also a veteran and a current Department of War employee. President Trump needs to address Congress and make them stay in session until H.R. 5371 is passed. Yeah. Okay, someone says they will be funded by tariffs. That's how we get no income tax. Yeah, that's one way to do it. Yeah. And that's it right there. I think that's the bottom line to it, this entire video today. If we want change, they used to tell us this in the military. Because when you start serving in leadership positions, they start explaining to you how do you get soldiers to listen and follow your commands. And even some, especially for soldiers who are, they have this tendency to not listen. You got to hit them where it hurts, which is their pockets, the money. That's how you get somebody's attention. You start playing around with somebody's money, they're going to be looking at you. So what does that mean? That means Congress should not be getting paid. I think that's the bottom line to it. And it's fascinating when you hear their response to it. Oh, well, we got families and, I don't care about all that because why should I care if you don't care? Again, there's no leverage for Congress to do the right thing by the American people, unfortunately. There's no leverage whatsoever. There isn't. And how does that change? Well, Bill Manchin was on News Nation the other day, I believe it was. And he was saying that the only way stuff in Congress is going to change is that the four corners are going to have to come together and change the law. Four corners are Steve Scalise, Speaker Johnson, and who was it? Chuck Schumer and Leader Thune. I think I have the names correct. Actually, it's not Steve Scalise. It's Speaker Johnson, Jeffries, Thune, and Schumer. That's what it is, those four people. They will have to come together and agree to change the laws. They need to put in term limits. They need to make a provision that says if the government shuts down, they don't get paid. And then what they need to do is go back to the Supreme Court and get a ruling that says no more donors from corporations. You do that, we'll have a different America. No question. But as far as Citizens United is concerned, I think that screwed us in such a huge way. It's no longer about the American people. It's about the corporations who have billions of dollars to throw at people in Congress. And let's just be honest with it, okay? I create this show every day. I do advertising. I do ad reads. There's no, I don't shy away from that. You guys see that every day, okay? We have this nice partnership with Rumble to really promote uncensored, this unfiltered show. There's no doubt about that. So somewhere along the line, DeVory is getting paid for what he is doing, right? So that's why when I do the sponsors I'm doing, I want to make sure they are relevant to the people who are watching. That's because I have some level of ethics regarding what I'm doing here. But not everybody thinks that way. Some people could care less about their viewers and they just take whatever money they can, right? Now that you guys understand that from a content creation standpoint, think about the people in Congress. They have no incentive to do anything for me and you. They're going to take the money that's given to them because, one, a lot of these people go into Congress broke. So now they have these people throwing money at them to get reelected. And now they're going to have access to information that allows them to essentially conduct insider trading that's going to put food on the table for their families. You don't think people are going to take that every single time? Of course they are. It's basic human nature. The only way to prevent it is to change the laws. So that's just the reality. All right. I think I've said enough. I appreciate you guys spending time with me today. So much more stories to get to later today. So if you guys want to see those episodes, they're coming up. Definitely one around 5 p.m. Eastern and 9 p.m. Eastern is when we usually drop them. Again, bottom line is, if anything that I said resonated with you and maybe you're in a tough situation yourself, you can get out of it. You just got to focus on this, focus on your heart, and then get to work, okay? And for the people that are out there that aren't going to do any of that because they're abusing the system, don't worry about those people. You got to focus on yourself and your mission, your purpose, and you got to keep it pushing. But lastly, we have to make sure that we're staying educated. We cannot allow the propaganda out there from mainstream media to tell us what's really happening here because they're lying. I showed it to you throughout this video. It's Congress who has to pay the SNAP benefits, not the president. But they're going to run with that. It's 60 votes in the Senate that opens the government, not Republicans. It's both Republicans and Democrats. It's Democrats who voted for the one big beautiful bill back in March. So this CR is the same thing that we had in March. But they don't want to do it because progressives have threatened Chuck Schumer, of course. And how do we know that? Just look at his approval rating. The progressive wing of that party, Democrat Party, has become louder and louder and louder. And it seems to me they're the only ones that look like they're about to win elections, Zohran Mamdani. So with that, stay focused, guys. Continue to think for yourself, and hopefully you guys found value in today's show. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And with that, I want to say God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone.